The morning Victor called me into his office, he was smiling. That smile. I had seen it 1,000 times across 1,000 conference tables. It was the smile he used when he already knew how something was going to end. He slid a document across the desk. 70%. My 70%. He wanted me to sign it over to him that morning in that office, or he was going to make a call that would end everything we had built. I looked at him for a long moment. Then I picked up the pen. What Victor didn't understand, what he couldn't have understood, was that signing that document was the most deliberate decision I had ever made. He thought he had won. He was still thinking that 90 days later when I walked back through the door. My name is Nathan, and for 10 years, Victor was the person I trusted most in the world. We met the first week of university, economics program, first year, 8 in the morning. We ended up at the same table by accident, and by the end of that semester, we talked more about what we would build than what we were being taught. That's the thing about Victor I want to be honest about. He wasn't always the man he became. In those early years, he was someone I genuinely admired. Sharp, relentless, the kind of person who made you believe the thing you were building together was bigger than either of you. We talked about starting our own firm the way other people talk about someday. Except with us, someday had a date. It had a plan. It had a list of the first 10 clients we were going to go after. 5 years later, we had 12 employees, 30 active clients, and annual revenue just over $3 million. We built that from a 2-room apartment. 2 desks, 1 shared phone line, and the certainty that we would figure it out. The partnership worked because we were genuinely different. I was the technical side, the one who could sit with a balance sheet for an hour and find the exact place where a company was bleeding. Clients called me at 11 at night when something was wrong, and I picked up. Victor was the one who made them call in the first place. He made people feel like they were his priority. He remembered names, details, and showed up when he didn't have to. For a long time, I thought that was his gift. Later, I understood the weakness inside it. Victor started to believe that being seen was the same thing as being needed. I trusted him completely. For 10 years, I trusted him completely. That's the part I want to come back to, not the betrayal, the decade before it.
I started thinking about what came next. The first sign was something I almost missed. I was reviewing the company accounts, something I did every month, and I found expenses I didn't recognize. A trip to Miami on the corporate card, a $4,000 dinner at a restaurant neither of us had taken clients to, hotel charges from a conference Victor had attended with his personal partner. I told myself it was an error, a distraction from someone under pressure. I went back through 12 months of statements. $180,000 redirected from the company account to personal expenses. Not an error, not a distraction. I confronted him. He didn't apologize. He didn't offer to return the money. He raised his voice. He told me I was exaggerating, that he carried the sales side, that without his network, none of this would exist. And then, when he saw I wasn't moving, he said something I'll never forget. He said, very quietly, very calmly, that if I wanted to make things difficult, he could make a call to our investors. He could tell them about decisions I had made in the early years when the company needed oxygen to survive, decisions that could raise questions. They weren't illegal, but they were gray enough to create doubt. And in the financial world, doubt is enough to end everything. I consulted a lawyer that week. The answer wasn't what I needed to hear. He said, "You might survive this legally, but the company may not survive it commercially. Given the partnership structure, Victor could block any decision I tried to make, and an audit, even one that found nothing, could take years and destroy a decade of trust. That night, I sat in a bar and looked at the rain for a long time. I thought about the 2-room apartment, the shared phone line, the list of 10 clients, and then I stopped thinking about any of that. I started thinking about what came next. The next morning, I called Victor and told him I would sign. He didn't hide how pleased he was. I signed the transfer of 70%, stepped into a secondary role, stopped arguing. Victor read that silence as surrender. He restructured the firm within the week, named himself formal CEO, began talking about the company as though he had built it alone. I let him. Because while he was doing all of that, I was doing something else entirely. The transfer agreement included a non-compete clause, 90 days. I had read it 3 times before I signed. I knew exactly when it expired. For the first 2 weeks after I signed, I woke up feeling like I had made the worst decision of my life. Then I would open the folder, look at the non-compete date, and remind myself, not yet.
The first thing I did was reach out to our 7 most important clients. I knew something Victor had forgotten in the years he spent closing contracts and working the room at industry events. The clients weren't calling the firm. They were calling me. I met with each of them privately. I told them I was starting something new, and if they ever wanted to work with me directly, the door would be open. One of them just looked at me and asked, "Will you be the one answering the phone?" I told him yes. He signed before he left the room. 5 of the 7 signed letters of intent, in silence, without Victor knowing anything. The second thing I did was talk to Elliot. Elliot had started as a junior analyst, but if something actually needed to work, it eventually landed on his desk. Victor barely noticed him. That was Victor's mistake. Elliot knew every account, process, and client at the detail level. I offered him a position in the new firm, a 40% raise, and a share in the results. He looked at the offer for less than 10 seconds. Then he said, "I was wondering when you were finally going to ask." He accepted that same afternoon. On day 91, at 9 in the morning, the new firm was registered. Elliot was in. The 5 clients had already signed. That morning, I published a short letter. My career, my values, what I was launching. By the end of the day, I heard from former clients, old colleagues, and 3 investors who wanted to understand the new structure. 2 of them were people Victor had introduced me to. I wasn't in the room when Victor figured out what had happened, but I heard about it. He checked the client contracts. Empty. He called Elliot. Gone. He reached out to the investors. They were already talking to me. In 30 days, the firm he believed he had taken had lost 80% of its real value. Victor had mistaken control for ownership, visibility for trust, and my silence for defeat. The people who remained began to leave, not because of anything I did, but because working inside a company in free fall under erratic leadership wasn't an option for anyone with somewhere else to go. Victor's firm closed, formally, 18 months after that signature. It didn't collapse in a headline. It simply stopped existing. The last thing I heard about Victor came through someone we both used to know. He had taken a salaried position at a mid-sized firm. A different city, a different industry. Nothing to do with what we had built. I didn't feel what I expected to feel when I heard that. There's a photograph in my office. The 2 of us, the day we signed the original partnership agreement. Younger, smiling, standing in front of a building that wasn't ours yet. I never took it down.